December the 20th, 2021. Guys, you're looking at current images of our sun, and this is called the HMI magnetogram. It's filtered down to where you can see where the most active regions are, and we actually have about 12 sunspots that are either Earth-facing or about to be. The three largest are right in the center as you see this turn from left to right, and the sun and the Earth are not exactly parallel as far as an ecliptic. This Earth, if you lined it up with the sun, is actually sun-facing in the sun's southern hemisphere, not along the equator. And this energy is there. We're getting flares now. Our solar wind speed is already up, and we're getting a couple coronal mass ejections. But as we look at the different groups, you can see the movement if you look very closely. So all of a sudden, this side of the sun facing Earth is in one of the more active times I've ever seen the sun as far as number of sunspots. Not strength, but these are very large. These are up in that top left corner. But the number of sunspots, I'd never remember seeing this many on the Earth facing side of the sun in over 12 years of watching these satellites. I think there's a reason why. One of the reasons why is because the Earth and Venus and the Moon are in a very close alignment. And you know that all three have what's called magnetic connectivity points with the sun. Now, this is a color image still because, as I mentioned earlier, since some hacks worldwide, I don't know if it has to do with a reset coming or not, guys, a lot of things have slowed down. But these different colors that you see in those sunspots indicate different magnetic properties, and those are what causes the arcing and getting to your strong flares. We had an M1 today that's under the X class flare. If you come out of the M's, you're in the X class, but we had a CME burst from that bottom left, and we're seeing flares across this middle point. I'll slow this down. We'll kind of back it up and look at it. Again, notice your timestamps in the bottom. These are Earth-facing images from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. Here, from the rear sunspot of this group, and I mentioned this in the video earlier, it's like one of the old warships turning broadside, except this is a very large battleship. And it goes back, as you watch these, back and forth, these flares and the CMEs that are ejected because of that. Again, a lot of activity. But if you watch these videos for a while, you know that I talk about the Earth and the Sun's magnetic connectivity point, which is almost a plasma tube that opens about every 8.2 minutes, which is the speed of light. If you have a solar flare like we did today, it will start to ionize the upper atmosphere of the planet within 8.2 minutes, because that's how fast it takes to go 93 million miles by a photon, not proton, but a photon light energy burst. Changing satellites, again, Earth-facing, this is called LASCO C2. Notice your timestamps. This is about 4 days going into the 18th. There you saw a very strong CME. Coming into the 19th and the 20th today, you'll see more CMEs, but they're not that strong. But all of this is getting very Earth-facing. And again, the Mercury and the Earth, Venus, the Earth, and the Mars are lined up right now. These are images that are current as of 4:50 p.m. Central tonight. Venus, the Earth, and the Moon are lined up. Now, this has nothing to do with astrology. It has to do with the electrical connection to the magnetic and the gravity that holds the planets around the sun. All of this is an electric universe. And when you start lining up like this, you see this CME, it was actually facing directly to the green dot, which is Venus. Watch this come out. We're going to be dealing with this through late in the 23rd and the 24th. We've seen much larger, but we already have elevated solar wind speed of over 1.3 million miles per hour now. Green dot, Venus. Yellow dot behind it is Earth. It's called the Sol satellite, is in the diamond. But what's happening is the magnetic connection, the electrical universe that connects and holds these planets in place. When the planets line up, again, not astrology, but science, you get greater burst of energy. So this time of the season, when you start seeing these inner planets line up, and if you get Mercury involved in this alignment, you continue to see greater and greater solar activity, and that's what we're dealing with tonight. And if you pause that right in that area, you're going to see late on the 23rd. But again, I'm pointing out here this connection, and there actually creates plasma portals. And the one between the Earth and the Sun opens up to the width of our planet. And this energy is transferred from the Sun like a constant feed every 8.2 minutes. In other words, by the time you finish this video, this connection has happened and will happen again in 8 more minutes. Again, an Earth-directed solar flare directly facing Earth sunspot AR 2908 produced an M1 class solar flare today. A pulse of X-rays ionized the top of the Earth's atmosphere. Again, that was in 8.2 minutes. And I showed you this in the earlier video. Our solar wind speed is very elevated, usually around 320 kilometers per second. 621, as I mentioned in the comments, is 1.387 million miles per hour. Guys, you can't even wrap your mind around that speed. 1 million plus miles an hour. Notice that the temperature, which is in green, increases with the solar wind speed. Have you noticed it's kind of a milder winter? It's a little cooler tonight in the south. Very mild so far. Now, we're still having some earthquakes off the California and Oregon coast here. Notice I've got this map turned on to where it's in different colors. If it's in red, that's the highest dangerous earthquake potential, these areas in the fault zones. And if you look at this, if you guys, you're in Fortuna or Rio Dale, these quakes are moving north from the initial area where they were starting to come ashore. So just keep your eyes on that. The redder dots are the newer quakes. So Fortuna, Rio Dale, Eureka, all of this area is very susceptible to quakes. We don't know if this was the strongest one or is it a precursor. We don't know yet. I do know that the planets are lining up magnetically, gravitational magnetics, electricity. That's what we're dealing with in this arcing and this power transfer. And what you're doing, you got the energy. Well, let me back up just a moment. Guys, if you understand voltage and potential, you'll build up a voltage and potential against 2 points, one negative, one positive, until it arcs across that, okay? And you'll see that arc, and it can be very damaging. Same thing happens with the Earth and the Sun. It's kind of balanced, but you start putting other factors in there like Venus and the Moon, then that potential is increasing for this type of activity to be directed at our planet. So keep a heads on it, guys. I told you I'd come in and update this, but we're dealing with an electric universe. It's a heads up. Be safe.